Hello again. My name is Dreweast, and today I want to present for the 8th GUP. That's the half yellow, half orange belt that represents the 8th GUP, and those colors represent the old body changing into the new. All right, to start off with, I want to go over some things we learned in the 9th GUP. One of the first things we learned were a number of stances. And so we learned the ready stance, we learned the horse stance, we learned the front stance, we learned the back stance, and we learned the walking stance. We also learned a number of blocks. The first one being, if anything comes at us from the knee down, we would raise our foot and not keep our foot planted on the ground, but we'd raise our foot and we would meet it with our shin. Then the next one would be the low block. Then the middle, inside to outside block, the outside to inside block, and the high block. Also, we learned how to punch. We learned that push-pull is important when blocking and punching. That as we're blocking and punching, we would be using that momentum. And also, we learned to kick. We learned the front kick, the snap and thrust, but we learned the snap kick and the thrust kick. And then we learned the side kick. Also, we learned the ABCs of one step to avoid, block, and then counter. And the defensive move that we learned was out of the walking stance as we're walking down the street. Very practical. Someone comes at us or even looks like they're going to come at us, and we put our hands up, making sure that we cover our midsection and our head. Good defensive stance, but also showing that we don't want any trouble, and we back away and even smile at them, make sure they know that we don't mean aggression. And so that's what we learned in the 9th GUP, or at least some of what we learned. All right, now moving on to what we learned in this GUP, the 8th GUP. Just start out with the stances and strikes we learned. We learned the T stance, which from a back stance here, we would move this leg, the front leg, to a T up with our back foot much closer to our back foot there. We also learned 4 strikes. The first strike being the knife hand strike, and from a punch position right here, we would or a block position, or just wherever you're coming out of, you would bring your hand to your ear right here, and you would strike. And what our instructor told us, it would usually be on the clavicle or the neck. And so then next we have the palm to chin strike. From a punch position, we just bring our palm straight up into the chin. There. From also, we learned the basic elbow strike. So from the punch position here, we would come across there. And last, we learned the knuckle to throat punch, which is basically just a punch to their throat right there. So those are the strikes and stance that we learned in this GUP. All right, we learned 3 kicks in this GUP. The first one being the roundhouse kick. But actually, before I get to those kicks, I just want to explain, we're still, our instructor told us to still concentrate on the up, out, back, and down techniques. And so I'm still working on those. But from the fighting position, the roundhouse kick, I'm going to bring the roundhouse around and step forward with that other foot forward after I'm done. So from the roundhouse kick from the fighting position. And then from there, I would be able to recover and still continue to fight instead of having to kick and try to bring that foot back down, back to where my left leg's the lead leg. Anyways, that's the roundhouse kick. Our instructor taught us that if we kick with the top of the foot here, then that will be a snap kick. And if we kick with the ball of our foot here, that'll be the thrust kick. And the thrust kick is more powerful than the snap kick. The snap kick is quicker. And so that's the roundhouse kick. Now for the crescent kicks. There's two separate types of crescent kicks. The first one is the inside to the outside, and the second one is the outside to inside. And so the first one we would do is the inside to outside. We come up, kick, and back down. So faster, because I'd do it better faster. And then with the other leg, back down. Now the outside to inside crescent kick goes something like this: up, out, and down. So faster. And then to the other side. So those are the crescent kicks. All right, the form we learned in this GUP is called Teguk Il Chung. And that means heaven and light. I'm going to do that for you now. Hiya! Now we learned two different drills in this GUP. All right, the first drill being the knife hand drill. So from the fighting position to the ear. And back. And that's the knife drill, or the knife hand drill. The next one is the inside to outside crescent kick drill. So from our fighting position. And then going back. And that's the crescent kick drill. All right, for this GUP, we learned 5 different counters in the one step. All of what the instructor showed us had the same avoid and block. It was all avoid a punch to the face, high block it, and then 5 different ways to counter that. Our instructor showed us the way to gi up. One partner gets in their fighting stance and gives the fighting sound, hi-ya! And then the other partner shows that he's ready by being in a ready stance and doing the same, hi-ya! And then they know that they're ready. He's ready for him to come at you. And so the 5 different counters he showed. Once again, avoiding a punch to the face, high block, and the first one was a punch to the face. So avoid, high block, punch to the face. The second one was the knife hand to the clavicle. So it was avoid, high block, and knife hand to the clavicle. The third one was a palm to the chin or the nose. And so he avoided, high block, palm strike. And the fourth one was the elbow. So it was avoid, high block, elbow to the face. And the fifth one was the knuckles to the throat. So it was avoid, high block, knuckles to the throat. So those were the 5 different counters we learned, along with avoiding and blocking a punch to the face. All right, last, want to go over the 4 basic self-defense techniques that we went over in this GUP. And the first one would be when someone grabs your wrist, and it would be when they grab it like this. And of course, this is kind of natural to where the guy's wrist would be, hanging the other way. But anyways, you would want to escape from where their fingers are. So you want to pull out that way, and that's what he taught us, just to pull out that way across our body. And the next one is if you're pulling and the guy is very strong and won't let go, then you're pulling, and with that counter pressure, you go under the wrist and over, and it puts pressure on their hand and breaks their grip on your hand. And so the third one that we learned was when someone has your shirt with one hand, and what we're supposed to do is grab their hand, put our hand on their hand so it doesn't move, and then reach under their elbow and pull inside to the inside of our body. So we pull their elbow up, and if we do that with enough force, it's supposed to really mess up their shoulder and really hurt a lot. And so the last one we learned is when someone grabs us with 2 hands on our shirt, and in that case we make a fist, we put it really close to our body, and as we're turning our bodies, we come across their hands just like that. And so those are the 4 basic self-defense techniques we learned in this GUP. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time.